How does a 6'2", 165-pound man vanish into thin air? He doesn't disappear in the woods. He doesn't vanish on a lonely stretch of highway in the middle of the night. He disappears inside a crowded bar, completely surrounded by hundreds of people, with a continuously panning security camera covering the only public exit. The security camera watched him walk in, but it never caught him walking out. He didn't fall off the grid. He evaporated in the middle of a major American city. 20 years later, it remains the ultimate real-life locked-room mystery. What happened to Brian Shaffer? Before we look at the night of March 31st, 2006, we need to understand exactly who Brian Randall Shaffer was, because in missing person cases, victimology is everything. Brian was 27 years old, a second-year medical student at the Ohio State University in Columbus. By all accounts, Brian was brilliant, but he was under an immense amount of pressure. Medical school is grueling enough, but just weeks prior, in early March 2006, Brian suffered a devastating personal loss. His mother Renee passed away from a rare form of bone cancer. Brian was exceptionally close to his mother. Her death sent shockwaves through the Shaffer family, leaving Brian, his younger brother Derek, and his father Randy reeling. Despite the grief, Brian pushed through his final exams for the quarter. He also had a beacon of light in his life, his girlfriend Alexis Wagoner, who was a medical student in Toledo. The two were deeply in love. In fact, on Monday, April 3rd, just 2 days after the night we're about to discuss, Brian and Alexis were scheduled to fly to Miami, Florida for spring break. Alexis and her family, as well as many of Brian's friends, fully believed that Brian was planning to propose to her on that trip. Brian had a future. He had a career lined up. He had a ring he was mentally preparing to buy. He was not a man looking to disappear. Friday, March 31st, 2006. Exams were officially over. It was the start of spring break, and Brian wanted to blow off some steam. At 9 p.m, Brian meets up with his friend and former roommate, William Florence, located in the South Campus Gateway complex on High Street. The Gateway complex was relatively new at the time. The area around it had a reputation for high crime, so the developers outfitted the complex with top-of-the-line security cameras. This detail is the crux of the entire mystery. Around 10 p.m, Brian steps away to make a phone call to his girlfriend Alexis, who had gone back to Toledo to pack for their Miami trip. He tells her he loves her and that he can't wait to see her. For the next few hours, Brian and William go on a bar crawl. They leave the Ugly Tuna walking down the high street, hitting multiple spots. They begin taking shots and drinking heavily, and at one of the bars they run into Meredith Reed, a friend of William. She offers to be their designated driver and drive them back to the Ugly Tuna so they can close out the night where they started. We are now entering the clinical window. It is 1:15 a.m. on Saturday, April 1st. Meredith, Clint and Brian arrive back at the South Campus Gateway. The Ugly Tuna Saloona is located on the second floor of the complex. To get in, you have to ride a long escalator up to the main doors. A security camera is positioned directly at the top of the escalator. It pans left and right, sweeping the entrance. The camera clearly captures the three of them leaving at 1:15 a.m. Brian is wearing a blue and green striped shirt, jeans, and tennis shoes. Inside, the bar is packed. Live music is playing. According to Clint and Meredith, they lose track of Brian in the crowd. They assume he went to the bathroom or went to talk to someone. At 1:55 a.m, just minutes before closing time, the security camera just outside of the bar captures Brian again. Brian is standing at the top of the escalator, outside the doors of the Ugly Tuna. He is talking to two young women, later identified as Amber and Brighton. He chats with them for a moment, then appears to say goodbye. He turns around and walks back toward the entrance of the Ugly Tuna Saloona. He steps out of the camera's panning view. The time is approximately 1:57 a.m. The lights inside the bar come on. It's closing time. Clint and Meredith wait outside the restrooms for Brian. He doesn't come out. They search the bar, but the staff is actively ushering everyone out. Assuming Brian found a ride or walked back to his apartment, Clint and Meredith leave. They ride the escalator down. The camera catches them leaving. It catches everyone leaving. Everyone. Except Brian Shaffer. Saturday and Sunday pass. Brian's friends and family are calling him, but it goes straight to voicemail. At first they think he might just be sleeping off a heavy hangover, or perhaps he dropped his phone. But then comes Monday, April 3rd. Alexis arrives at the airport in Columbus for their flight to Miami. She waits at the gate. The boarding calls are made. Brian never shows up. Panic sets in immediately. This man was deeply in love, weeks away from proposing. Scheduled for a tropical vacation, he would not miss his flight. The Columbus Police Department is called, and they kick open a door to Brian's apartment. It is completely untouched. His car is parked outside. His glasses, which he needed for his contact lenses, are inside. Nothing is packed. It was clear Brian never made it home from the Ugly Tuna Saloona. When police realised that Ugly Tuna had security cameras, they thought this would be an open and shut case. They requested all the footage from the night of March 31st into the early hours of April 1st. Investigators sat down and meticulously tracked every single person who went up that escalator. They counted them. Then they tracked every single person who came down the escalator. Every single patron was accounted for. The number of people who went up perfectly matched the number of people who went down, except for Brian. How is this physically possible? Let's break down the camera. It was a panning camera, meaning it swept back and forth. Could Brian have slipped past it while it was looking the other way? Police tested this extensively. They tried to run past the camera, sneak past it, hide behind groups of people. The camera caught them every single time. The timing of the pan made it mathematically impossible for a human being to clear the frame without a single pixel being recorded. If he didn't go out through the front door, he had to have left going through the back. In 2006, the Gateway complex was still partially under construction. The Ugly Tuna had a back service door, primarily used by staff. This door led down a hallway and into an active sprawling construction site. This leads us to the primary theories of the case. Theory 1, the construction accident. Brian was heavily intoxicated. Did he wander out the back service door, get lost in the dark, dangerous construction site, and fall down a shaft into wet concrete? Police thoroughly searched the site with cadaver dogs. They checked the blueprints. They found absolutely no trace of him. Furthermore, the construction site was heavily alarmed, and no alarms were tripped that night. Theory 2. Foul play inside the bar. Did an altercation happen inside? Did an employee or patron harm Brian and then smuggle his body through the service elevator in the trash? Police interviewed the staff. They checked the dumpsters. They ran luminol in the back rooms to check for blood. And yet, nothing. The Ugly Tuna was a busy bar, hiding a £165 man during closing time, while staff and patrons were everywhere, borders on the absurd. Theory 3. The disguise. Did Brian change his clothes? It sounds like a movie plot, but police investigated it. Did he put on a hat, a different jacket, and keep his head down? They reanalysed the footage, looking not just at faces, but the gait, the pants, the shoes. They couldn't identify him in a disguise. And if he did this, why? Theory 4. Voluntary disappearance. Because of the recent traumatic death of his mother. Did the pressure finally break Brian? Did he decide to walk away from his life? While psychological breaks happen, the logistics make no sense. His bank accounts haven't been touched in 20 years. His passport was left behind, and he had no extra clothes. For months the case was totally stagnant. Then in September 2006, 5 months after he vanished, Alexis Wagner was calling Brian's phone every night just to hear his voicemail. One night it didn't go to voicemail, it rang 3 times. Alexis immediately contacted the police. Singular wires pulled the cell tower data. The phone had pinged off a tower in Hilliard, Ohio, about 14 miles northwest of Columbus. Was Brian alive? Was something else using his phone? Singular later stated it was a system glitch, but a glitch that specifically routes to a tower 40 miles away. To this day, the ping remains one of the most hotly debated clues in this case. As police dug deeper, they administered polygraph tests to everyone who was with Brian that night. Meredith Reed took one and passed. Brian's father Randy took one and passed. Clint Florence, Brian's friend, the man he spent the entire night with, the man who last saw him, lawyered up and refused to take a polygraph. Now, refusing to take a polygraph does not make you a killer. Polygraphs are notoriously unreliable, but Clint's refusal fueled a massive amount of public suspicion, and Brian's family openly begged Clint to cooperate more fully. Clint has maintained he told the police everything he knows. As the years ticked by, the cruelest part of the story unfolded. Brian's father, Randy, refused to give up. Having just lost his wife to cancer, he dedicated every waking moment of his life to finding his son. He hired psychics, he launched websites, he travelled the country following up on vague tips. In September 2008, 2.5 years after Brian vanished, a severe windstorm hit central Ohio. Randy Shaffer was in his yard in Baltimore, Ohio, clearing debris from the storm. A massive branch from a tree snapped off and struck him, killing him instantly. He died never knowing what happened to his son. In a heartbreaking twist of fate, the obituary for Randy Shaffer was posted online. In the digital guestbook, a chilling anonymous comment was left. It read simply, "To Dad, love Brian, US Virgin Islands." The FBI traced the IP address of the comment. It turned out to be a cruel hoax orchestrated by a teenager using a public computer in Franklin County. The Ugly Tuna Saloona closed its doors permanently. The building is still there, but the bar is a relic of the past. As of April 2026, we have officially passed the 20-year mark since Brian Shaffer walked up that escalator. The FBI still has an active file on him. His description is permanently burned into the minds of armchair detectives worldwide. 6'2", hazel eyes, a dot on the iris of his left eye, and a Pearl Jam stickman tattoo on his right shoulder. Former Columbus Police Sergeant John Hurst, who was part of the original investigation team, recently spoke out on the 20th anniversary. He stated his belief that there are still people of interest who knew Brian, who know exactly what happened that night, and are simply too afraid to come forward. Did Brian Shaffer orchestrate the most flawless vanishing act in American history? Did he stumble into a tragic accident in the dark bowels of a construction site? Or did someone inside the Ugly Tuna Saloona ensure he never saw the sunrise? Somewhere in the concrete foundations of Columbus, or perhaps halfway across the world, lies the answer to the most confusing locked room mystery of the 21st century. If you have any information regarding the disappearance of Brian Randall Shaffer, please contact the Columbus Police Department or the FBI's VICAP Missing Persons Unit. Thank you for watching Shadow Docket Files, and if you want more cases like this, be sure to subscribe to the channel, comment your theories on what happened down below, and I'll see you in the next one.